This video is brought to you by War Thunder. Season 9 is upon us. And just as it's about to launch, Blizz does a 360 and nukes all the top builds into oblivion. They had to take Barb out the back in particular to cross the Rainbow Bridge. But honestly, it's for the better, because for the first time in 3 seasons, we have a completely new meta. And with that, it's time to cover not only the best builds of the season, but I'll also sprinkle in some good old fun builds as well, because hell, it's just a fucking game. Also, a disclaimer. We are getting nerfs to the pit, so it may be possible that all the builds on this list actually clears higher than expected. We'll have to wait and see. And starting us off, we're checking out the winner of Season 9, the Poison Thorns Soyborn. Now this build is absolutely disgusting, clearing upwards of pit 115 during the PTR, way beyond what the other classes were capable of. Sure, it got its damage halved after that, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It doesn't fucking matter. We only lost a couple of pit tiers. Alright then, Mr. Big Penis Man, so what makes this build so great then? Well, glad you asked, friend. It's all due to the new Pantaloonies, aka the Balazan Pantaloonies from Hell, and due to this new unique only, Thorns Poison is now a thing. It deals Thorns damage every time you attack as poisoning damage, meaning we want to stack a shit ton of attacks per second, Thorns and poison damage, and we'll deal a buttload of damage. Combine that with some nasty multipliers and double-dipping mechanics from previous seasons, and you have this build dealing trillions of damage. And here's the best part, you can play it with any skill of your choosing, you don't have to roll Quill Volley. In fact, Crushing Hands seem to be even stronger when there's loads of density, and you also have both Thrash and Rake up there at the top, allowing you to clear every content in the game regardless of skill. Pretty great, huh? Damn right. And when it comes to getting this bad boy online, it's easy as hell, because all you need are the Balazan's Pantaloonies, and you're basically done. You'll find a complete build guide to this one in the description, along with all the other builds. And next up, we have the fun option, which is also the speedrunning build you want to keep in your armory if you go with Thorns, and it's the Evade build. If you've played the Cringeborn before, then you should be familiar with this build. It works simply by you reducing your evade cooldown as much as possible, to a point where you can keep continuously evading non-stop. If you're playing on a PC, which you should unless you're eating glue for breakfast, then you can, with ease, set evade to be used when you use scroll wheel on your mouse, followed by simply moving your scroll wheel up and down, and in turn, clearing the entire screen. And how do you clear the entire screen by just evading? Easy, you can upgrade Thunder Spike to be cast while evading. This is in turn an Eagle skill. And by using an Eagle skill, you can grab the primary Spirit Hall and bust out a bunch of Storm Feathers that deal damage. And better yet, we also got a new unique buffing this build, the Sunbird's Gorget. Using this takes the Birdman to the next level, simply by granting us a huge Firestorm, a bunch of broken passives. And perhaps most importantly, it turns Storm Feathers into a Jaguar skill, meaning we can utilize some sweet new multipliers. Getting this build online is rather easy, as all you need is some cooldown reduction and the Sepazon-Tech weapon. But to actually deal proper damage, it's a bit more difficult as you'll be looking for a good Shaco to get the endgame variant online. And with that, we're leaving the Soyborn to check out the class I'll most likely be starting this season, the Sorcerer. And why the hell would I start a Sorcerer? Isn't that class shit? Nah, we have 3 excellent and insanely fun builds that I'm about to show you. And the first one is the Hydra Sorcerer. This is looking to be the strongest Sorcerer build of the season, and while it was already the strongest during the PTR, it got some substantial quality of life upgrades and some decent buffs as well. But first, how does it work? Well, quick and dirty, via a new unique and an aspect, the unique being Ophidian Iris. This thing alone took the build from a decent to a magnificent build. For starters, it removes Hydra heads, which makes me sad, but it turns the Hydra into an absolute beast instead. For every Hydra head you would have had, you now instead have it deal 100% additional damage. And spoilers, you can temper a shit ton of additional Hydra heads on your weapon. Not only that though, but it also makes them deal AoE damage and turns them into a core skill, allowing us to dip into a buttload of additional core skill multipliers, making the build truly amazing. And when it comes to the aspect, it's the serpentine aspect. By utilizing this and stacking as much mana as possible, we can get an absolutely disgusting multiplier for our Hydras. Now here's a small caveat. This could perhaps work with the Hydra enchantment. We do not know yet. If so, the build would get an additional huge damage upgrade. We'll have to wait and see. Now I also talked a bit about some quality of life upgrades. The most important one being that Hydras now attack instantly when spawned. As you can see in the footage, they're a bit slow in the brain when it comes to attacking. That is now gone, and the build should be able to be used for speedrunning as well. When it comes to getting the build online, you guessed it, it's easy as hell. Just get the amulet and you're basically done. Everything else we do is simply to boost our Hydra damage. Alright friends, next we have my personal main build of the season that I'll focus on before anything else, unless I change my mind in the last second as usual. But first, a word from today's sponsor, War Thunder. This is one hell of a game. I've personally accumulated hundreds of hours here over the years. Let me explain why you should give it a spin as well. Firstly, it's easily the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. You can take control of thousands of tanks, planes, ships, and helicopters from different nations and points in history. The amount of detail and ways to play this game is simply astonishing, making it the PoE of vehicle combat. On top of that, it's also realistic in both graphics and sound. But here's the kicker, and why I've played it over the years, it's actually optimized. Meaning you can play it on a goddamn potato and it's still fun. And speaking of potatoes, it's not only playable on PC, but also on console and mobile. War Thunder is completely free to play, and signing up via my links in the description or pinned comment, you can get this massive bonus pack for free, including premium vehicles and more for both new and returning players that haven't played in 6 months. It's available on both console and PC, so make sure to sign up now. With that, let's check out the build that I'll be running, Azure Wrath Chain Lightning, because holy shit is this build fun. Lurkin cleared a pit, 95 with it as well, making it an exceptional pit, clearer and boss killer. But what truly makes the build special is this, the speed. This is the speed running build that you want to keep in your ass for the season. You simply zippity zap through the maps with a 0 cooldown teleport while you have chain lightning going off everywhere. But it's not chain lightning dealing damage. No, it's Azure Wrath. You'll see a lot of builds relying on this weapon this season, now that some of the boring-ass meta builds are gone, and the part that we're using is the lucky hit to deal cold damage. This scales fantastically and is one of the few remaining flat damage lucky hits that are still in the game. And to utilize it, we're simply going to make ourselves get as many hits in as possible, with as high lucky hit chance as possible. And hey, will you look at that? Chain Lightning is excellent for both. So not only is it fast and has high damage, but we're also allowed to play a visually appealing spell for the season. And getting the build online, is that any difficult? Nah, just slightly more difficult than the Hydras. No Ubers needed, but you do need the Azure Wrath, but preferably also the Axial Conduit. This will allow you to deal a gazillion extra hits, but of course, also forces you to spend a lot of mana, and that's the thing you'll have to solve, which honestly ain't that difficult anymore. Simply grab some lucky hit to restore resources, preferably starless if you can find it, and you're done. I can't recommend the build enough, go check it out. And because I'm excited to play the Sorc this season, I'm showcasing yet another sorcerer build, the Dino Destroyer. This is yet another incredibly fun yet strong build, capable of clearing upwards of Pit 100, but in fashion. If you go for Hydra when pushing and Chain Lightning when speed farming, you run this build for the big dick aura. And how does it work? Well shit, via meteorites. You're going to have the Armageddon aspect dish out meteorites dealing substantially more damage than what your own meteors. But not only that, because we can take these meteorites and make them deal yoink our own meteor damage via the Shattered Stars aspect. And now, my friends, we have an actual build. All there is left to do is to scale our fire damage and meteor to the fucking moon. And this in turn scales our meteorites. To wipe out the entire screen, we also slap on the Starfall Coronet, of course, and call it a day. And what about getting the build online? Well, rather simple as well. As with the Chain Lightning build, you'll need the key aspects and helmet to make the build truly shine, but equally as important, cooldown reduction wherever you can find it. Because to spam meteors, you'll make use of the no cooldown meteors while Inferno is up. And to keep that up, you need some cooldown reduction. But it's not all too bad, and definitely another build I'll play this season. Next up, we're checking out another class that I'm excited to play this season. The Fat Wood Chopping Man. This guy's been in the woods, chopping down trees for so long, he turned himself into a bear. Because that's what we'll be looking to play this season, the Werebear Pulverize build. Now you're probably like, Mr. Perra, the guy's clearing a dogshit pit tire? Yeah, thing is, after the Season 9 PTR, the Pulverize build was buffed times a gazillion. The Pulverize base damage got buffed, aspects, skill tree, you name it. But most importantly, the new weapon, the Rotting Lightbringer. This weapon was so dogshit during the PTR that I pissed myself laughing at people playing with it. But since then, a substantial change has been made. It now forms poison puddles every attack that explodes with a massive burst of green aids all over the screen each time you attack an enemy. But not only that, the stats on this thing are just perfect. And we should see this build pushing towards a Pit 100 this season. It's just that good now. And mind you, fun as hell. So how difficult is it to get this build online then? Ha, you're kidding, right? It's used as a fucking leveling build. You can play it from level 1 all the way to Pit 100. You don't need anything at all to get it online. Just play it and enjoy. And once you obtain the key aspects and the new unique, you're going to absolutely dominate this season. I'm not sure about you, but I'll be playing this build. Now, just as with the Sorc, I'll present 3 builds, because the Druid meta is looking juicy as hell. And here, we have what should or could be the strongest pushing build, the Flesh Render Bulwark build. This one's rather interesting, so listen up, you lazy old fart. Flesh Render deals damage every time you cast a defensive skill, having its damage increased the more willpower you have, basically allowing willpower to double dip. And to those missing the good old Bulwark builds, guess what? Earthen Bulwark is a defensive skill, so that's what we'll use. We spam Petrify, which resets all of our other cooldowns, including Bulwark. We then reset Petrify, which can be done using Flicker Step, for example, and then repeat. It's just that simple, folks. And now, mind you, this is mainly a pit-pushing build. So let's take a look at what I find the most fun. And it's, of course, the Coked-Up Rabbit build, aka Shred. So why is this build good? Well, damn glad you asked, mainly due to the Stormclaw aspect. By having this in our arsenal, we can deal lightning AoE from our shreds, meaning as long as we crit, our shred will not only scale from everything that makes shred decent by itself, but also by getting additional lightning bonuses out there, and at the same time wiping out the entire screen. This is fantastic, both because of the additional damage, but also due to it solving the one thing shred lacks, AoE, meaning The build is now fast as hell, it has great single target damage, and we're able to use it for all types of farming. Great, huh? Damn right. Next up, we're checking out the skinny meth head. And as with the other meta builds, the old ones are gone. And we're in with some new ones. For the strongest build of the season, there's actually two that are looking absolutely fantastic, and first up is the Poop Wave build. Oh no, another season of Blood Wave and running around, picking blood orbs, trying to overpower? No, this is not Blood Wave, it's Poop Wave. Sure, you can shit blood, but not this time, because now we're ditching the Rathma's Vigor Key passive, running around collecting blood orbs and covering the entire screen with poop waves instead. So how does this work, and why is it more fun than the old build? Well, since we're not relying on Rathma's Vigor, we don't really need to collect blood orbs. Getting 2 or 3 orbs are enough to reset the cooldown of Blood Wave, meaning the collection happens automatically, and for pushing, you don't need to collect any orbs at all. And rather than overpowering and dealing direct damage that way, we're now utilizing the ultimate shadow aspect. This turns our Blood Wave into a darkness skill, allowing us to add additional multipliers into our Blood Wave and have it deal damage over time. Now, sure, you can still play this build with darkness multipliers and overpower, but I'm trying to sell you the damage over time version here, simply due to how massive of a quality of life this is. Trust. Other than that, though, we're still doing the same things as per usual. We get the good old Keseme's Pantaloonies, get our Blood Wave cooldown as low as possible, and grab the Fast Blood aspect to instantly reset the remaining cooldown. All in all, this means that you do need a few investments to get the build online. But honestly, it's incredibly easy once you have your uniques. Alright, and next up is the other top cringelord build, Shadow Blight. Yes, another damage over time build. What's up with that? Well, shit. Blizz buffed the damage over time passives to the fucking moon just after the PTR. Meaning you have a Pit 100 clear here, and the build got several nasty buffs following this. Okay then, and how does this build work? Easy. It's all Shadow Blight, baby. All the damage we deal is via the Shadow Blight passive. And remember, I just said this passive got buffed to the fucking moon? Yes, indeed. On top of that, the aspects making the build work also got a substantial buff. And all of a sudden, the build is now S tier. Now to trigger Shadow Blight, we need to deal damage over time. How do we solve that? Easy, via Blight. Using this, in combination with Eben Piercer and our Shadow variant of Corpse Explosion, we're able to cover the entire screen in damage over time spells and have Shadow Blight go off like crazy. It's just that simple, folks. And what about getting the build online? Is it easy? Yeah, sure. You need the key aspects and the Eben Piercer, and you're basically done. You'll then just keep upgrading your gear, work on your masterworks, and suddenly you'll find yourself clearing above Pit 100. Now to the reason you're probably here, down in the Meth Head section. Minions, baby. They're better than ever before. In Season 4, minions and summons in general finally became useful, getting our own stats for free. Since then, our minion builds have gotten slight buffs here and there, making them fairly decent. Up until Season 9, where we got our new lovely unique, the Hand of Naz. While bugged and not doing its job during the PTR, it should be solved, and also buffed. The way this works is by scaling our mages by disgusting amounts, increasing their damage, but also allowing them to finally deal AoE damage, which was an issue we had when using mages before. Well, that issue is now gone, and we can ditch all the other minions for mages instead. And the playstyle? Send in your minions and go do something else, like clean your house if you're bored, fuck your wife if you've got one, or bomb Iran if you've got a bird's nest haircut. So, how easy is it to get the build online then? Easy peasy. You can play the build from level 1 all the way to 100 and just keep progressing the build. You'll see a substantial damage increase once you've got your new unique gloves, and that's where you'll ditch your non-mage friends as well. A lovely fan-favorite build for sure. Next up, we're checking out the Rogue. This class is looking alright. It's probably the class where the least has changed from previous season meta-wise, and the best build is still looking to be Death Trap. So, for the newcomers, how does this bad boy of a build function? Well, via a bunch of interactions. In other words, this is not an early game build. Rather, this is something you transition into. But when you've got the build online, holy shit, is it fun. You're zapping through all content, flying all over the place, dealing billions of damage. The build should still be able to clear upwards of pit 100, but that's probably where it'll top out, unless the new pit changes are significant. But in a nutshell, there are a few interactions that the build is based around. Firstly, you need to get Death Trap down to a 10-second cooldown. This is done via cooldown reduction, but also via the Scoundrel's leather chest. This is what it's all about. It turns your trap skills into core skills, meaning not only are we getting substantial damage multipliers from it, but we're also able to lower the cooldown of Death Trap by getting core skill ranks. And with enough of them, the cooldown will drop below 10 seconds. And why 10 seconds exactly? Well, shit. Due to preparation, of course. Every 75 energy you spend, you reduce your ultimate cooldown by 5 seconds. So, having 150 energy, you'll reset the remaining cooldown. Okay, Mr. Big Penis Man, and how do we spend energy and get the 150 energy to start with? Via the Beastfall Boots, obviously, you dummy. Every time we cast a core skill, which remember, Death Trap now is, we spend the energy required to reset the cooldown. Now, I said that there are a few requirements to get the build online, but there are some ways you can do this more easily. Read the guide, and you'll get the build online in no time. And for the fun builds, we have Twisting Blades, of course. 9 seasons later, this is still my favorite rogue build. So let's see what's making this build great this season. For starters, you have 2 main ways of playing it. Either you go for Poison Imbuement and stack poison damage, or you go for Azure Wrath and stack Lucky Hit. Both of these options are great and similar in power, and which one you go for will depend on your preferred playstyle. The Azure Wrath option has one added benefit though. The gear that you're using, you can also use to build up a pen shot build. Because this build as well is looking to be similar in power when combined with Azure Wrath. Either way, we're here to discuss Twisting Blades. Or are we? Because that's about all you need to know. No difficult-to-understand interactions or must-have uniques other than Azure Wrath. You simply find your favorite and you start building, simple as that. Alrighty, final class, the Barb. This class is so unbelievably dogshit this season that there's no point in playing it. All classes got nuked this season when it came to the top builds, but this is the only class that didn't get any compensation or got to keep any decent builds. Everything's just shit. And the best builds? I mean, they're all pretty trash, but I guess the best ones should be basic skill builds, most likely Lunging Strike or Frenzy, which also have the added benefits of being fun and new. So what makes these builds decent? Because I don't want to say good. They're probably capping out somewhere around pit 90 or 95. Well, they got huge buffs this season in terms of their base damage, but also via a new unique Hooves of the Mountain God. Using this, Frenzy and Lunging Strike are finally playable, simply by them now dealing AoE damage. Unfortunately, a lot of these buffs were offset by the fact that all the aspects we were using for basic skills were obliterated. Or were they? Well, they got a new yet redeeming quality, and that is, the adaptability aspect got its damage scaling changed. You now deal additional damage the more resources you have. And guess what class is able to stack up humongous amounts of max resource? Correct, the Barb. You now have both Ramaladni's and the adaptability aspect benefiting from max fury, and oh boy can you stack bunch of it. Hundreds, probably upwards of 400 if you really try. And that's a substantial multiplier right there. But unfortunately with all the simultaneous nerfs, these builds are still kind of mid. but at least they should be something new and interesting to try out if you enjoy barbs. And what's the fun build going to be then? Well, I was going to put Whirlwind Earthquakes here, but honestly, the build got absolutely obliterated. It's still playable and decent in T4 content, but I won't be playing it. If anything, I'll try out the basic skill builds. Alright friends, that's all for this one. And again, big shout out to my friends over at War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Remember to sign up via my link to receive the bonus pack for all new and returning players. It's definitely worth a spin.